Okay, good morning sa tanan. So, dili ko makakonect og camera. Murag na something wrong. Especially sa internet connection ata, murag hindi kaayo. Lisod pud ko og recording. So, for today na na lesson, mag-discuss na ta sa to ang sa to ang final. So, later on, mag-ano ko, plus, mag-announce lang ko dito with regards sa inyong final requirement for for this subject. So, so on topic for today, we will be discussing, we will be discussing environmental accountability. Post ako, kung kaya pa. Hindi ko maka-screen share. So, i-discuss na lang ako sa inyo ha. Wala ko PowerPoint na ma-display. Hindi siya makaya o display. I think doing something wrong on software ka. So, ito ang discussion again kay environmental accountability or the corporate environmental responsibility. Plus, kani corporate environmental responsibility, maduog lang ba ko ninyo? Tama na yan. Before ko mag-proceed. Maduog na ba?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Pinapagala. So, back sa to ang topic, kaning corporate environmental responsibility class, ang concern niya is the environmental aspects of corporate social responsibility or the CSR. It is commonly defined mangod as is the way in which organization can incorporate environmental issues into their operation in order na ma-eliminate ang mga pollution and also the emissions of the pollution as well sa ang environment. So, it takes all its meaning in the current context of the global warming, destruction of biodiversity. Pwede sa itong mga logging sa mga illegal logging sa mga bundok. So, this becomes a pillar of development manggod of some organizations that voluntarily engage. So, an incorporate environmental responsibility is about managing the use of the natural resources in the most effective and even efficient manner in order nga makareduce sila sa environmental impacts and also sa financial cost sa company. So, kaning corporate environmental responsibility, ang area of focus niya ani kay first, energy efficiency and savings. Second, kay naapodara ang waste management, then also the travel and transportation, sustainable procurement, and sustainable events, and lastly, ang environmental management systems. Sa karong panahon mangkod class, ang environmental risk management mangkod is essential na siya for the good development sa isa ka organization. So, it allows them to carry out their activities in a sustainable way regarding sa pag-alaga sa to ang environment while ginapadagan nila ang ilahang negosyo. So, plus, under sa environmental accountability, ang environment ba nato is part ba siya sa stakeholder? So the answer of this is It's either yes, pwede sad siya as no. Yes, because ang environment man good, it can affect siya in terms sa ato ang climate changes like the global warming. Then, it also, with the environment man good, directly kita ang maapektuhan no if there is if changes na mahita mo sa ato ang environment. Then, as a kuan pod, as a entrepreneur, as a paano someone na naga-focus on business, we also have the moral obligation na good towards sa ang environment. In terms sa kuan sa part nga ang environment is not a stakeholder, the answer for this is that only people can negotiate mongol in terms sa environment no accountability nato. Then ang stakeholders must have an agency nga under sa ilaha para ma-sustain nato ang ato ang environment while nag-operate sa to ang business. Then we already have discussed the stakeholders theory from our topic sa to ang midterm. So, 'di ba, ang kaning stakeholder theory na to ang discussion last midterm kay broad man ni siya kaayo nga topic na because of this theory, even though this theory can be helpful sa to ang pagkuan pag-alaga sa to ang environment while being efficient sa to ang kuan sa to ang business, we have kuan to we have to use the stakeholder theory para ma-sustain nato ang pagpamalakad nato sa to ang negosyo. So, plus, in the 21st century, Manggod, environmentalism is generally a subject matter that has become an imminent priority globally. Especially sa to ang time karon nga global warming na nun. So, hindi na to mabantayan na even the 'di ba, mabala na to nga kung summer ay init kayo ang panahon, and then towards June hangtod sa December kay ulan nga panahon. Karon man gud sa 21st century hangtod sa present, dili na nato masabtan ang ato ang panahon, 'di ba? Mapansin ba ninyo class nga na ay moment nga even summer kay magsigig ulan, 'di ba? Tapos karon tig-ulan hastang iganga, init kaayo. Nakapansin ba mo ana?
Yes, ma'am.
'Di ba? Napajoy moment nga nag-ulan habang nagainit nagaulan. Hindi na nato masabtan ang panahon. Nga ang kuan na lang siguro I'm not sure kung nakakita mo atong palabas nga kuan kanang kay dito sa disyerto kay ni nahitabo kay nagkuan na ulan tapos na agihan sila og baha. Nakalimot ko sa title sa palabas ato. Tapos some part of kanang I think sa US na lugar ata to kay ang ilahang sa kalagitnaan sa ilahang summer kay nag-ice ang ilahang lugar. Check na ko sa YouTube ha. Nakalimot ko, basta nato siya nga itong palabas nga ang nag-change ang climate sa every places nga. Supposedly, dito sa lugar kay summer, nagkaroon og ay sula sila nakabantay nga magkaroon og blizzard, so naanggahi ka ng tao dito ang nga nga panahon. Tapos sa somewhere nga lugar nga daghan kaayo og kuan og mga disyerto na kuanan sila na bahaan sila, like nagkaroon ng tsunami. Climate change. Um, sa palabas kay The Day After Tomorrow, murag ganito siya nga palabas, nga nagkaroon ng changes sila hang lunar. Murag the day after tomorrow. So, nindot to siya na kung ano, as an example, there is po ang environmental nga accountability. Kay mostly manggod, ang nakong impact sa to ang environment is the companies, especially ka ng mga factories no, nag-emit og mga carbon dioxide sa to ang atmosphere na maka-weaken sa to ang ozone layer. So, with this class, it appears mga that the world is collectively developing awareness of the wreck that has been instigated to the planet by reckless na behavior sa mga sa mga businessmen or even kita as a tao. So concerns like climate change, mga airborne na mga contamination nato, like the air pollution, also various types of pollution like the greenhouse radiations, even mga harmful or toxic waste, especially from our factories no, na sometimes if we see nga mga factories near sa mga dagat kay directly ginalabay na nila dito ilahang mga toxic waste na maka-affect sa to ang mga isda, din ito mga isda kay makaon na to. So it can also affect the humans. So we also have the exhaustion of ecological pollution or resources, and also again katong pag-weaken sa to ang ozone layer. So these are just a few of the many manifestations as well as warning signs that the inhabitants must take action para makita og means and also ways para ma-save ang ato ang Mother Earth. So according sa mga experts now are alerting us of the looming threats sa tuang planet. So, environmental task force and also mga watchdog groups were formed para magkaroon of they have to keep an eye on the conditions of our ecosystem sa tuang ecosystem. So, meanwhile, diri sa to ang mga lugar kada lugar we have a green law that were fashioned by the government na as the business sector man going to come up with guidelines, mga principles, and also mga protocols para ma-anticipate nato and be optimistic on the repairing for our global damages karon diri sa to ang kalibutan. With that class, safeguarding our planet is certainly a topic that we have to be concerned na that is categorically of the top importance when we are running our business. So, attention of the environment or ang paghatag og attention sa ang environment is more than ever under sa civic inquiry nato and even scrutiny. So, ang mga activists or the mga movement sa mga nagarally or the activists engage in the environmental watch continuously alert our industries, even mga activities or mga practices na atong ginabuhat that they perceive as risk or even threats to our ecosystem and also the earth in general. So, conservation efforts were undoubtedly more resounding than ever, and everyone must get involved in saving our planet. So, with that, there is a great misconception Manggod, that the agriculture industry who makes use of land resources, even kaning mga land agriculture na to or mga agricultural industry na to, they even produce our food, possess the most damage sa to ang Earth's natural reserves. So, environmental stewardship class isn't just para sa mga farmers alone. Dili lang dapat ang mga farmers ang nagabantay, nagapamalakad sa kuan sa pag-fix sa to ang environment. even mga blue-collar workers from the city or even mga suburban na mga working class na to, in dwellers na to, must also act as a steward sa kung ano sa pag-alaga sa to ang environment. Even sila, even kita as a student, if we will be working na po sa mga businesses, dapat mag-acta as an steward para ma-maintain na to ang good environment natin na. In fact, businesses man good in any type, size man na siya, or even nature of business na ginapadaga nila, should practice resource conservation and embark on programs na mo advocate sila sa environmental responsibility. Even sa simple lang siguro paperless nga kung ano nga type of business, dili na mo magamit ng paper, dili na mo magkalas-kalas o papel because paper is made from trees. So taga sayang din mo o papel, pila na kapuno ang imuhang sayang nga na sa isa ka rin nga pan paper, pila kapuno na po ang imuhang sayang. So, conventionally class, environmental fortification has been deemed to be in the public interest and even outside sa to ang mga personal life. Such was a thing of the past, no? Doon siya ang mga napangkita po sa past. So, it is not enough pang good that the government alone would have the sole accountability for guaranteeing environmental management simply by focusing on the creation of policies and laws for the preservation and safety of the environment. So, plus, as such, manggod, the environmental facets sa tuang social, corporate social responsibility or sa tuang CSR is demarcated as the obligation na kumbaga para ma-safeguard na to ang atuang environmental repercussions of the company's functions, mga merchandises na to, mga amenities na to sa to ang business or company that we have also to eradicate mga rubbish and discharges na to from our company, no, kanang mga waste na to na gina-produce from the company. So we have to make the most of the proficiency and efficiencies to ang mga resources. For example, ingani class, sa mo ang kuan manggod sa ako ang trabahoan dati sa company sa kuan kita. Nagakuan jud mi for example, dati kay dili pa man uso ang computerized, no, so we are using papers. So for example, maggamit mi og bond paper as long as nga naapa nay bakante ang papel, kanang naay part nga wala siya nasulatan kay gina-recycle na mo siya, ginagamit na mo na siya hantod sa kuan, napoy to the point nga ginalata na mo ang paper no nya imo na mo siya o balik og another pang scrapbooking na mga kuan ng mga type of paper nga butahan na mo og mga color, kahilig man mi og mga craft dati. So, mao na siya mo ang ginabuhat, na-recycle na mo ang mga kalat na mo. And mga plastics, kay if ever nga needed pa siya, like, lumuon siya o power, kanang flower pot, ngana, or unsa pa ba siya, asa pa ba siya pwede gamitin na pwede lang ma-recycle. So, dili kayo nagalamay kayo og kalat dati. Mina-recycle na mo ang mga waste na mo dati sa business. Then, with this type of stewarding sa to ang environment, we will be reducing mga run-throughs that may perhaps negatively affect the gratification of the nation's resources by forthcoming na mga generations na to. If ever na magkaanak ka, at least sa ilang panahon, hindi sila mag-lisod, they can inhale clean air, they can drink clean water, wala na dili na kayo init sila ang panahon na murag feeling nimo sa sobra ka init ituon na kayong adlaw sa imong sa earth good. So in the materializing global economic class, wherein the massive use of the cyberspace na to the broadcasting and the communication upheaval both up on the commercial practices in every book and corner, no? Firms are more often arbitrated type na sila on the core of their environmental stewardship. So the associates in businesses and even the patronize the even the patronize and aspire to see what is within a business. Such transparency, kaya diba, we have already discussed the accountability and transparency of the corporate social responsibility. So, with the transparency of business practices plus the channels that for the scores of every enterprises, mga even corporate social responsibility is certainly no longer an indulgence but more on the obligation. So, under sa pag-grant sa to ang mga substantial na mga noteworthy amount of virtuous business practices. Um, Largely the stakeholder or the apprehension about the CSR or the corporate social responsibilities that rather than the vast amount of initiative, it is lacks a wide-ranging framework that would embrace immunization concerns and even sa mga disputes such as mga government standards, we have assurance standards, and then we also have the performance standards, performance reporting, na po dala under sila ang codes of conduct and the management system itself. So, kaning business firms, typically nag-execute na sila o mga distinct elements or even adhere sa mga preferred na mga skins, time, and again, overlooking sa mga instance, all but transparent monitoring mechanism. So, dili ito mawala ang transparency sa pag-monitor aning kada standards na ato ang ginakuanong ginapatupad sa to ang firms. So, CSR drivers, these are the CSR drivers on environmental accountability na to. So, from the time sa ano sa gibuhat ni Brundtland report or sa report na gibuhat ni Brundtland, it was published about the World Commission on Environment or the WCE and WCED or the World Commission on Environment and Development Report of 1997. So, corporate managers and management scholars have been wrestling with the query of how and why business firms should integrate environmental matters in their identifiable na strategic pronouncement and decision making. So technically speaking, manggod class, and the common sense, no, using our common sense, it would tell us manggod that it is better for such a business na ma-view na to siya as one who assumes a positive nga role in fostering our ecological nga protection. So as against to being perceived as the one contributing sa tuang environmental nga mga problema. So the corporation na nagamanifest sa mga responsibility nga dili sila mobuhat og mga pwede ikadaot sa tuang environment is truly commendable siya. Diba? Kay syempre, mao man jud to ang pinaka-importante, no. It is the corporation responsibility na mag-manifest sila o kanang ma-sustain nila ang kanindot sa ato ang environment. Dili sila makapadaot sa ato ang environment. So, with that, the private sector is becoming a decisive factor in influencing sa ato ang environmental performance and even magkaroon ng mga long-term environmental nga sustainability. So, there are also mga geographical areas nga na ay tangible importance and even viable na mga benefits from our fascinating ecological na mga initiatives. So we have here the industrial ecology. We also have
Wala man naguba mo ba yan? Wala. Dili.
Excuse me, pamute ko sa microphone kasi lang wala nakamute. Okay, thank you. So we have the industrial ecology, then environmentally oriented design. We also have the energy efficiency. Then most importantly, the pollution prevention. So mao ni siya ang mga importance no and viable benefits para facilitating ecological ng mga initiatives na ginabuhat taga establishment. Then lastly, it can also benefit the supply chain management of the establishment. So basically, kaning mga various firms have discovered that kaning CSR over and over again have an affirmative bearing on the commercial revenue. So among the things associated there is ato ang corporate social responsibility, it is the environmental initiatives that have generated by far the utmost extent of scientific data conjoining sa upbeat and hands-on na establishment na to, no, na nag-encourage ato ang mga financial nga outcomes. So, under diri sa ato ang sa ato ang environmental focus, to have a business success, no, mao ni siya ang mga factors na to. So, we have the two factors under sa ato ang environmental focus. So, we have the first, ang environmental process improvement. Then second, we have the environmental products and services. So under diri sa to ang environmental process improvement, we have what we call nga revenue growth and market access. Then appetite cost saving and productivity. Then we have the access to capital. Then we have the risk management and license to operate. And lastly, under this environmental process improvement, we have the brand value and even their reputation. While diri asa to ang environmental products and services, we have the revenue growth and market access, then we have the access to capital, and pangatlo and last na to, the risk management and license to operate under ni siya sa environmental products and services. So plus, based on the IFC of 2002, moderating man the usage of energy and raw materials, and even reducing discharges and mga rubbish from our manufacturer or the manufacturing that doing the assembly part are vital sa practices sa production industry that can craft or even magkaroon ng confrontation from our environmental challenges. So this world is this type of industry carry the most problematic na mga environmental challenges nato. So the noble exercises of prominent na establishments nato, they foster a foundation for the behavioral transformation of others. So furthermore, para masabtan nato ning the usage of energy and raw materials, and even pag-reduce sa ilahang mga rubbish nga mga materials, the various conglomeration are embracing the environmental dogmas, no, na mo dala sa sa pag-end o mga what we call this, mga confrontation from our environmental or the challenges na ma-confront nato in our environment. They are respectively health para mudagan o tuloy-tuloy ang ato ang supply chain, and even the structure of our prerequisites for our providers para magkaroon of observance ato ang sustainability certification before ta makapasa sa pagkuha of for example, pwede na maka-loan from most well-known ng mga banks, mas dali maaprubahan ng ato ang mga loans with this the help of the certification for the sustainability of our environment. So, dapat ay kinatawag ang paanggas vehicles for introducing our CSR. So, ang ato ang government manggod is in general have a resilient desire in upholding the CSR initiative as an accompaniment sa current and even open-ended type siya of social and environmental agendas, no, para magkaroon og long-standing sa public interest. So, with the support sa to ang gobyerno, they can be deliberated when they can deliberate and also makalibrate nila ang mga factors in national environmental programs. So typically, mao ni siya ang management that would design a three-part approach sa puzzle kumbaga sa tuang kuan sa tuang CSR or sa corporate social responsibility na to. So first, we have to notify, also update and explain and get involved kumbaga sa mga business discussions nato and even sa mga consultation. So this is a voluntary initiative sa isa ka company, and also with that initiative we have to implement the process para masabtan siya sa management nato. Then we have to extend also the incentives and offer assistance sa mga establishment nato in quest para mapurso nato and even ma-embrace nato further ang environmentally responsible business model. Then lastly, under sa three-part approach, ano ko na to, support from our government, we have to regularly observe and also we have to scrutinize ang mga environmental conditions and also impose sanctions if ever na ano necessary, if naatay naatay dili masunod sa to ang mga i-implement na to nga process sa initiation na to sa pag-save sa to ang environment. Then we also have standard and even mga parameters na we have to communicate sa to ang management. So this is basically depends on number of factors. So unsa sa kais na mga factors. So first factor na may encounter nato is that the size of our corporation, the nature of our work, and even sa culture. So, businesses magod engaged in the manufacturing and production sector are met by wide-ranging na mga environmental challenges, di ba? As we have discussed kanina or earlier. So, while several businesses magod nag-deal sila sa mga ecological concerns in one issue at a time. So, dili siya bulto. O kung maigo man ang mga challenges sa mo, dili bulto. So, paisa-isa ang pagsulod. If nag-deal ka with other type of businesses, hindi siya manufacturer type. So, with this class, no matter what type of commitment ato ang ginabuhat, for the most part, ito ang kumpanya, it adheres to a parallel cycle of change when dealing with impact on our government. So the following are generally observed by most business firms. So first, we have the corporate environmental policy. So whenever a company are committed para motabang sa pag-save sa itong environment, they usually create a solid set of guidelines and even principles for everyone to follow that guidelines and principles. So the advocacy of such demeanor manggod is to reduce environmental problems and para makakontribute sila sa pag-heal sa tuang nature. Then we also have second, the concept of environmental audit. So ang mga firms they fully understand the impact of their business sa nature and its surrounding. For example, you are making chemicals, no? Imuhang business kay nagamake og mga chemicals, so you are near the sea. So connected dito ang toxic waste na makuha mo no, dito malabay ka ng toxic waste mo sa imong factory. So, aware ka kung saan pwede na mahitabo sa environment with your business. So, mao ni siya ang concept of environmental audit. So, an environmental audit must first be performed before mo operate mo business. So the objective of this audit is to figure out that entire land and quantity of the resources used by the firm, the product line, or even the facility, and even not to mention class, the types and extent of waste and emission na ma-generate sa toang kumpanya. So from this audit, they can now move on to address the existing situation and come up with the strategies kung saan nila ma-narrow down ang ilahang problema, especially sa pag-emit or even sa waste na ilahang na magawas sa tuwang environment. So dapat makita sila pamaagi pa kung saan nila ma-lessen or even mawala nila ang problem sa ilahang toxic waste or sa ilahang waste jud mismo. Then we also have the employee involvement. So with the employee involvement class, environmental commitment is not just for the chosen few. For it to be effective, so the company must encourage all of its staff and management para magkaroon ng contribution even by mere means of pagdisiplina sa ilahang employees. Then we also have the green, green, green. So, ano siya ang slogan no, sa mga most of the companies na nag-advocate of environmentalism. So, green, 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 it means, in short, go green. So, there are so many ways no, na nagabuhat silang mga logo para i-remind ta kung paon sa ta maging advocate for our environment. Then, lastly is that the CSR and environment naatay nga tawag na corporate social responsibility and the environmental development. So kaning mga advocates na to class sa ato ang corporate social responsibility in relation sa atong environmental development. Mostly nagaponder sila sa mga concept as a realistic way of seeing the situation at hand. So if we are familiar sa ato ang deforestation o versus ato ang illegal logging, not to mention also ang mga bribery and corruption no to carry on with the illegal na mga practices nato has caused damage sa ato ang environment big time. Dako differential impact sa ato ang environment. So more than ever, this is now the time to come up with strict dapat na mga regulations and law-based na mga sanctions nato that would be implemented accordingly. So with these illegal practices, kita na manggod Japon ang maapektuhan. For example, kanang mga baha-baha. I'm not sure kung sa to siya nga tuig katong nagkaroon og baha nga tanan na mga logs kay katong mga logs kay mao to siya ang naanod sa dagat na daghan kay kahoy nga naanod from the bukid. So daghan ay kaayo to mga illegal loggers dito sa ngato nga lugar din. Ang pinakasakla pa dyan kay tanan mostly ato nga lugar kay naapektuhan sa sa baha kay ang naigo sila ang mga naigo sila ang balik kay mga dagkong kahoy from the bukid. So that is where our topic ends for our topic 13. So we have until topic 16 or topic 17. Basta 5 topics na lang ito ang i-discuss for the finals before mag-end ang final. So most probably by December mag-end ng ito ang topic. So narata sa ito ang topic 13 or sa week 13 na to. So it's already 12:02. Do you have questions with regards to ang topic? I will be posting ang module sa ato ang discussion for today. and also ang